Hi there, my name is Jamie, and welcome to November's episode of Quick Market Talk with Experts. Today, we have a new expert, Thilan Wickramasinghe, Head of Research at Maybank Securities Singapore. Thilan is a panelist and frequent public speaker featured regularly in the media, so you might have heard of him before. Now grab your cup of coffee and listen in as we ask Thilan on some of his top stock picks in Singapore. Hi Thilan, welcome to your first episode of our Quick Market Talk with Experts series.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for having me on the show.
Great. So Thilan, as we head into the year end and into the new year, I guess one of the questions on every investor's mind, including mine, is naturally which stocks could be poised for a year end of potential Chinese New Year rally. Would you have a view on that?
Sure. Look, I mean, the US markets have overshadowed a lot of other markets, especially with the performance of the Magnificent Seven. But if you look closer, Singapore has actually done pretty well. It's actually held up quite well on a relative basis, especially against a lot of the other regional markets. It's only down about 5% or so year to date. Now, within that, we see a very strong performer, and that's Sembcorp Industries. It's already up about 50% year to date. But it doesn't mean that the momentum is coming off. We've got a target price on this stock of $6.30, and that's another 20% or so higher from where it is today. Now, take a step back. Sembcorp Industries is a utilities company. They generate and distribute electricity, conventional electricity, as well as alternative electricity, as well as provide sustainable urban solutions. But then something interesting and something different happened in 2020. They started restructuring. So if you really look at the new Sembcorp that started to emerge from 2020 onwards, they were much more focused on things like return on invested capital. They were starting to jettison businesses that were generating very low returns. We saw them getting rid of their offshore and marine business, for instance, over the past couple of years. And so with that, we see a company that is emerging that is generating much higher returns, as well as generating a lot more positive momentum as well. Now, at the same time, they did something else as well. They started embarking on a new strategy, which with a target saying that by 2025, 70% of their net profits will come from sustainable sources. Now, this is a very, very ambitious target, but it's a target that is coming at a time when countries like China, as well as in our part of the world, in Southeast Asia, a lot of governments are moving more and more towards alternative energy. So, right place, right time, at a time when a lot of institutional investors are now actively looking to buy companies that have a green footprint. So there's a scarcity value as well. So stock prices go up when there's more demand than supply, and we see a very strong demand coming from this institutional investor side as well. So that'll be a positive catalyst as we go into the next couple of months. But apart from that, I think investors should also be looking out for a few other positive catalysts. The first being the fact that you got their fourth quarter results coming out around February, March of next year. We're expecting earnings to be a lot stronger. It may actually beat expectations, largely given the fact that utility prices and high energy prices are high as well. So that should provide some positive momentum. But also, they have the potential and the balance sheet to add more businesses. Just yesterday, they announced a wind farm deal, one in China and one in India for about 200 million. We think they'll announce more deals like that as they kind of execute their sustainability strategy as well. So there's a lot of positives happening for this company. So while it has had a bit of a run, we think there is still a lot more space for this company to grow, particularly from stronger earnings coming through, as well as from more M&A deals coming through as well.
So, Thilan, thanks for highlighting all the story behind Sembcorp Industries in particular. I think what you've highlighted is the short-term potential stock price catalyst that we could look out for in terms of results and obviously potential further announcements that might come through the pipe. The question is, what is kind of your longer term target price that you are having on this stock then?
Yeah, so long term, all our target prices are a bit long term. So we're looking at $6.30 is our long term target price. So given where the stock is trading now, so that's about a 20% or so a higher upside at
Right.
this stage. So
Okay.
actually, let me ask you, Jamie, at this stage, do you have any call warrants that are tracking Sembcorp Industries? And how would that work based on what we've been talking about now?
Yeah, Thilan, thanks for that question. And I think warrants are certainly an instrument that you could consider using to trade, sort of short-term potential upside moves, especially with call warrants, if you think that the stock could move higher. And one way to search for Sembcorp Industries call warrant would be to utilize our warrants website, warrants.com.sg. And one way to look for the Sembcorp Industry call warrant would be good to go to the warrant tools drop down to use the warrant selector tool to quickly select a Sembcorp Industry call. So in this case, you could look for Sembcorp Industries, and because we were bullish in the short term, thinking that could be short-term stock price catalyst, we would choose the call. But of course, if we think that the stock price could come off in the short term, there are also put warrants available over Sembcorp Industries. So we'll just click into the call, and you see that essentially there's only one call warrant, OEWW, that's on tight spreads. So this selector tool essentially only lists out the warrants that are on tight spreads, and really there's only one warrant to choose. In order to see how it might perform, you could continue to use this selector tool and price in $6.30, and increase the number of weeks to see how the warrant will perform. But if you wanted to look beyond 10 weeks, which is the maximum this tool would provide as a holding period, there is another tool known as the calculator tool to answer your question, Thilan, on how it could perform based on your view. So to use the calculator tool, you need to know the exact warrant code, in this case OEWW, which was flagged out in the selector tool earlier. Now that I've typed that in, you could scroll further down to use the calculator tool. Now on the 28th of November at 1:40 p.m. where we're chatting, the warrant is actually costing about 4.4 cents based on Sembcorp Industries trading at $5.06. So the warrant, it was only costing a fraction of Sembcorp Industries' underlying stock price, okay? You mentioned a target price of $6.30. You would find that, of course, it happened during the day, it's going to make a massive jump of 177%, but of course, it's a 25% gain. It's probably going to take longer than that. So what we're interested to solve via this tool is how long a period should we be looking at if we're utilizing this warrant in order to trade, the upside move in Sembcorp Industries. In this case, you can move the date slider to a later date to see how the warrant will perform. So if we were to look at, say, by the time of Chinese New Year, right, which is happening on the 10th of Feb. So if we were to look at how the warrant will perform before then, okay, that would generate a 143% return entering into the warrant today at 4.4 cents if the stock were to move 25% higher. But if you wanted to be a bit more realistic and we think, oh, it could take a longer period of time, you can continue moving this date slider all the way until the warrant bid price here generates a lower percentage return than the stock price return. Because the whole point of using a warrant is so that we can enjoy this gear returns, right? In this case, you see it will make 138% gain versus the 24.5% gain in the stock. So that's geared. That's magnifying the move in the stock. So you want to keep increasing it until it starts magnifying it. But in this case, the warrant, which sees its last day of trading at 22nd of March, so beyond that, you can no longer trade this warrant. You can no longer buy and sell out of this warrant. It will continue to make a geared return of 127% versus the 24.5% return in the stock.
Great.
So
It's really
now that we've
interesting.
covered a top performing stock like Sembcorp Industries, I guess the question is if you have got a hidden gem of a stock which potentially isn't talked about as much as Sembcorp Industries that you might see potential upside in for the short term.
Absolutely. I think, Comfort Delgro is a stock we think that the market has missed, particularly as a reopening play. If you look at other reopening plays like Singapore Airlines or Genting Singapore, they've all had pretty decent runs, but Comfort Delgro has only been up around 8% year to date. So, very, very sort of small performance so far this year. We've got a target price of $1.55, so that's another 16% upside from here. And we think that, there is a significant value in Comfort Delgro at this sort of valuations. Look, it's one of the largest land transportation companies in the world. They run taxis, trains, buses, not just in Singapore, but also in the UK, Australia, as well as in China. And one of the things that we're seeing is, particularly in the taxi business in Singapore, one, you see rationalization of competition between Grab, Gojek, and the other players. And we also see more and more tourists coming to Singapore. For Chinese tourists, but in particular, Singapore is becoming one of the most preferred destinations. And as China reopens and the economy starts to pick up a bit more steam, we should see a lot more travelers coming into Singapore. And if you look at Singapore, the Public Transport Council here has agreed to a 7.3% fare hike starting from the 23rd of December. So that will give a nice little bump up to margins going into the fourth quarter for ComfortDelGro and certainly going into 2024 as well. So I think, again, they've got their fourth quarter results coming out around February, March of this year, of 2024. So we may see much stronger than expected results coming out from them as well. But apart from that, they also have a $500 million net cash balance sheet. So that's a huge war chest that they have for them to deploy to add more capacity and to buy more businesses that are complementary to their existing business, especially in the overseas markets. One of the areas that they have been quite active in is in electric vehicle charging infrastructure in Malaysia as well as in Australia, and I think that's an area that there's going to have significant amount of growth as more and more countries and more and more consumers go electric as well. So there's a huge thematic to play there as well. And on a more longer term basis, again, this is one of these stocks which are going to benefit from the fact that more and more countries are moving away from personal ownership of cars towards more public transportation and shared transportation. So that, again, that's something that ComfortDelGro will benefit from.
So in order again to select which Comfort Delgro warrant that one could consider, you could use warrants.com.sg. You could even continue using the same tools that I've mentioned, namely the warrant selector tool, to really derive at the one warrant that you might want to pick, repeating the same steps that I've done. In this case, there are two warrants here being highlighted. However, one expires just a month from today. So we probably wouldn't want to consider that. Instead, zoom straight into ZTQW and use the calculator tool to see what the maximum holding period of this warrant should be. So we'll type in ZTQW here, and it would take me to this specific calculator tool and function for this warrant. You mentioned a target price of around $1.55, so that's something we could potentially see if we could achieve. Thilan, I think you mentioned by around March,
Yeah.
February, March. So maybe we can shift this down to the end of March to see how this could perform. 29th of March. So in this case, if ComfortDelGro did move up from its 2.2% bid price today on 28th of November and move more than 16% higher to $1.55 at the end of March, this warrant will generate a 50% return, which is around 3 times more than a ComfortDelGro share price by this warrant. So you go up from 2.2 cents to 3.3 cents. And again, to see how long we could afford to hold on to this warrant for, you can continue to move the slider until the warrant bid price falls as a result of the holding costs eating into the leverage gains, and you increase it to the point where it would start to measure up only to a similar amount that the stock price has gained. So in this case, by the end of May, you notice that the warrant would only have gained 18%, which is not
Mm.
much gearing compared to the stock price's 16.5%. So I look forward to the next session. We could catch up with you and let's see if your analysis of these two companies would realize and come true by the time February or March is around the corner. So let's catch up during that time. In the meantime,
Excellent.
have a wonderful Christmas and Happy New Year's. And wishing all investors who are viewing this the same. Take care, Thilan. See you next time.
Take care. Thank you.